What is up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Down Once More. Matt here, and this week I am going to be reviewing the national tour of Back to the Future, the musical. Now, this is the first national tour, and I'm going to get into that and a little bit history on the musical itself before my review. But first, I just want to call out, if you're watching on YouTube, you might be wondering, why is there a zipper that goes all the way down your sweatshirt? And the reason for that is because it is about 5 a.m. as I'm recording this on Tuesday, and I'm currently wearing what is called a Tuxy. It's basically a onesie, that's sweatpants and a sweatshirt, which is either a brilliant invention to throw on in the morning right when you wake up, or it is truly a sign that I have given up on life. Not quite sure which one it is yet. Only time will tell. But it's what it is. It's convenient. It's morning, before work, before showering, before work. So here we are. Let's get into it. So Back to the Future, 1985 classic movie, directed by Robert Zemeckis, with music by Alan Silvestri, who also wrote the music for this musical. Production on this musical began back in about 2012. They were anticipating a 2015 release. Ended up getting delayed due to some kind of creative differences with the original slated director for the production. And one of the main differences being that the original director didn't want Biff to sing in it. And Bob Gale, who wrote the book for the musical and was also one of the co-writers of the movie with Robert Zemeckis, said that was a deal breaker. They wanted Biff to sing and have a song as well. So ended up having some production delays, dealing out with it, and then it originally debuted in February 2020 at the Manchester Opera House. It ran for just a short month or so, and then COVID shut everything down. And then it didn't re-premiere until 2021 on the West End. And then in 2023, it transferred to Broadway. And then now in 2024, it began its first national tour. So the original version of it at the Manchester Opera House starred Ollie Dobson as Marty and Roger Bart as Doc Brown. Roger Bart, I knew that name, looked it up, and Roger Bart was Hercules in Disney's Hercules, provided the singing of that. So Go the Distance, all those classics, that was Roger Bart. And there is a cast recording of this, studio recording featuring Ollie Dobson and Roger Bart. So from that original production group, they did record it, and it came out, I believe it said October 2020 is when that premiered. So it had mixed reviews. The West End production had a little bit better reviews. And so then when it transferred to Broadway, a little bit more mixed reviews, because there's some things in this musical that are fantastic. And there's some things that I was a little cold on. But this, I said, Bob Gale was the co-writer, was the writer of the book on this. The other person is Glenn Ballard, wrote the lyrics for this musical. So Alan Silvestri did the music, Glenn Ballard did the lyrics. So Alan Silvestri, he's been a longtime collaborator with Robert Zemeckis. He worked on Back to the Future movies, but then he also wrote music for the Avengers movie and Forrest Gump and a lot more. And then Glenn Ballard wrote the lyrics. He was a co-writer and producer on Alanis Morissette's Jagged Little Pill album. He's worked with Dave Matthews, a ton of other artists there, a lot of credits to his name. This is both of theirs first, from what I could see, I could be wrong, could be fact check me, first actual musical Broadway kind of venture and production. And then Bob Gale, like I said, he was a co-writer of the movie, wrote the book for this, and you could tell this musical is very faithful to the movie that is adapting. It did a really good job at that. If you've seen the movie, you pretty much know what is going to happen in this musical. And the songs are all worked in really well. They feel natural. They feel in the vein. They feel in the world. They have a lot of 50s, 80s feel and what's going on there. I will say one of my biggest complaints with this, and it's a real stupid complaint, but I'm someone, I listen to musical songs outside of the musical. I have a playlist with a variety of kind of hodgepodge musical songs, mashups, and a lot of my favorite musicals, and I feel like a lot of the most successful musicals have songs that can work well on their own outside of the musical. This one didn't really have any for me. Now, I went into this one not really listening to the album much beforehand. A lot of times when I go to these shows, I'm already familiar with the music. I'd listen to the album about once, maybe twice through on here, just kind of because it snuck up on me. And life has been crazy lately. But so I wasn't as familiar with the music of this musical before seeing it. And so no songs really jumped out. I'm like, I need to listen to that more. None really put a bug in my ear, like Who I'd Be from Shrek the Musical. I talked about that one, right? When I went and saw that and reviewed that I had no idea what I was getting to going in. I wasn't familiar with the music of it. I knew the story from seeing Shrek. But then Who I'd Be, just that first act closing number just really jumped out at me and grabbed me, and it's still on that playlist that I mentioned. One of my favorite musical songs, and a fantastic performance from Nicholas Hamburg on the national tour. So this musical didn't really have any songs like that, any songs that jumped out and grabbed me. No, they were all really well done. The performers were great, and they all worked within the musical and felt like they fit in the musical, and it was all really fun and well put together. But none just really burrowed their way into my head and are going to stick with me, and I'm not going to listen to anything outside of the musical, most likely. I've listened through the album a few times since then and kind of have the same vibe, the same feeling on it. There are a few standout songs that I really enjoyed. Like, my favorites from the musical are probably, I really liked Wherever We're Going, which is a song between Jennifer and Marty towards the beginning. Oh, and I'm going to give some spoilers for Back to the Future. If you haven't seen the 1985 movie, then I don't know what to tell you. It's going to follow those beats a lot. There will be a couple spoilers from the musical on some of the differences, but nothing's too crazy or earth-shattering. So Wherever We're Going is the song that Jennifer and Marty sing after, at the very beginning, the principal, Strickland, kicks him out. Strickland? Think so? Because his music is too loud. And so I had to double check, make sure that I hadn't muted the mic, because that happened one episode. And then I had to re-record everything. But when Jennifer's kind of trying to comfort him after the failed audition, and I really liked Wherever We're Going. The one that was probably the biggest standout to me and the best first act number, music-wise, was You Gotta Start Somewhere, which is sung by Goldie Wilson back when they're in 1955, after Marty puts the bug in his ear about being mayor. That part from the movie where he's sweeping up the floors in the soda shop, and he said he's gonna make something of himself, and he's encouraging George to stand up for himself. And Marty's like, yeah, you're gonna be mayor. And he's like, Mayor Goldie Wilson, I like that. And then he goes into the song Gotta Start Somewhere, and that was a giant musical number in this. And it is Goldie Wilson is played by Cartrice Tucker on this, and he absolutely crushed it and nailed just a fantastic vocal performance on this song. It was amazing, blew me away. And so, huge shout out, Cartrice Tucker. Fantastic performance as Goldie Wilson. He also plays Marvin Berry at the songs at the Enchantment Under the Sea dance later on. I enjoyed Pretty Baby as a song when Lorraine is kind of not comforting Marty, but kind of nursing him when he wakes up in her house. He doesn't get hit by a car in this. He just falls out of the tree. And so Pretty Baby, I thought, was really fun. It felt that time, like that you were in that time zone. You were in the 50s. It had that vibe, that feel. And maybe that's why a lot of songs in this didn't necessarily grab me as much. If you listen to the podcast for a while, I'm notoriously not a huge oldies fan. So like 50s, 80s music, not so much my jam. I have to be in the right mood. It has to be right songs. And this, like I said, it captured that time very well. There's a song sung by Doc Brown in the second act, For the Dreamers, where he's kind of reflecting on what he's trying to accomplish and those that have come before, and how it's basically bigger than yourself and having this dream. And I thought that song was really good within the musical, and it was performed really well. Doc Brown was played on this tour. It's played by Don Stephenson, and he did a really good job with the mannerisms. The only issue I had with it is his way of performing and delivering the lines. He had so much emotion, but his voice was fluctuating so much, and I do not think that they had his mic tailored and mixed well to him, because you lost a lot in the songs where it got kind of muddied, buried by the music. You're not really able to make out what he was saying within the songs, and so that was kind of disappointing, because I could tell like the emotion, everything he was putting into this. I wanted to hear it more, and especially not being as familiar with the soundtrack, not being able to hear on some of those key songs. Like he has a couple of big numbers in the first act when he first reveals the DeLorean and that time machine works. It's called, he sings a song, It Works, with Marty, and it's got some fourth wall breaking meta moments within it. So like when he sings in the chorus and girls show up dancing and singing the ensemble, singing the chorus. And Marty's like, where do the girls come from? He's like, I don't know. They show up whenever I start singing this. There's a lot of moments like that in this musical, which can be funny, but they did it one too many times, in my opinion. This has a lot of like fourth wall breaking meta moments that didn't necessarily work for me. So the song when Marty first finds out he's back in 1955, and everyone's kind of welcoming him to the town. There's a song called Cake, and it is just so on the nose, like bashing you with the time difference, what's going on about cigarettes being good for you, how cheap gasoline is, and fossil fuels are going to really help keep the atmosphere and the environment so clean. And how about it's great for all these white men, can have their cake and eat it too, the women will bake. All of these things that are kind of funny, but it was just so much like nodding, winking at the audience in 2024, then I don't feel like it was as much for Marty's benefit. Like it was clearly in there trying to be like, the audience will find this entertaining. Same with after the second act opener, 21st Century, which is sung by Doc Brown. He's having a dream sequence where he's in the future in like a spaceship time machine, and lots of futuristic dancers and everything going on with that. And at the end, he tells Marty he had a dream. He went to the year 2020 where there was no disease and no crime, and like all these things designed to get laughs out of the audience, how ridiculous it was, especially the no disease part with COVID in 2020. And so there were moments like that to me actually detracted from the show as it was. But overall, I felt like everything worked well. The music worked well within the production. It was fun as a whole. The most impressive thing to me was the production design and the technical aspects of this. It was the most impressive thing I have seen in a musical. It is kind of framed with there's outline with LEDs, and it has a screen that'll drop down that they'll have kind of project more things to give kind of the 3D effect and help you see more. So like when it's raining at the end, the final act, when they're trying to go to the clock tower, that screen drops down in the front, and so you can still see behind it, but then they have rain going on there, so it looks like it's actually raining without you dumping water on the stage and the audience and the performers and the set. And it was used the best. Like video boards and technology is the best I've ever seen in a show. You've got a DeLorean moving around on the stage constantly. They did a really great job of how making it look like it is driving. At the end, when Doc Brown comes back and gets Marty, just Marty, not Marty and Jennifer, they take off. The DeLorean actually raises up and looks like it's flying into the crowd. It was fantastic. It was really cool to see. And like, this show is worth seeing for the production design as well. Like, I have never seen anything like this in musical theater or live theater in general. It was amazing. Highly recommend it. Now for like this cast and the production as a whole, I already shouted out Cartrice Tucker as Goldie Wilson on here. For the performance that I saw, there were understudies for Marty and Biff. So Marty was played by Lucas Hallauer. May be butchering, mispronouncing his name. Hallauer, one of those. And Biff was played by Will Jewett. So from their bios in here, Lucas Hallauer looked really familiar to me, and it said he was in the Mean Girls National Tour production. And so I went back, found my playbill for that. Still here. And he was at the national tour that I saw. So he played Tyler K on that, so not like a crazy main character on that. But I knew I recognized his face from the little picture with the bio on there. And so neat that he's going from one national tour to another. You could not tell that he was like the understudy, like so talented. He looked like Marty. He embodied the mannerisms well. He sounded fantastic. Just an amazing vocal performance and performance as a whole from Lucas. So shout out him. Biff was played by Will Jewett, like I said, and his most recent kind of tag on there was he was a dancer in the Mean Girls movie. So all comes back to Mean Girls. And he didn't have a ton of singing lines in it. And Biff is one of those over-the-top characters anyway, but he did a good job with that as well. And Don Stephenson played Doc Brown in this, like I said. Burke Swanson played George McFly and did a fantastic job just capturing those same mannerisms of George from the movies. The really gangly, just awkward, doing the motions, and the laugh, and like that, which is basically like a slowed down count from Sesame Street, but did a really good job with that, just capturing and mirroring those motions from the movie. Zan Barube Barube, butchering some of these pronunciations, apologize if the cast is watching, as Lorraine, fantastic, great mannerisms, great job acting, great voice. And then Kiara Lee as Jennifer, fantastic voice, fantastic performance, and Wherever We're Going, like I called out, one of my favorites from production there. So this cast was insanely talented. The dancing, the choreography in this, and the staging was so neat. Like, I also already shouted out the technical aspects and the production design, but like I said, when it works is going on, Doc Brown is in front of the car is moving a bit too, he's getting up, dancing on it, you got the dancers and the LEDs and the lights going. If you have epileptic seizures, do not go see this show. Lots of flashing lights, lots going on there. But even just from how the show opens, so that screen that I said that is dropped down, that they display things on, that works, help create that 3D effect. At the beginning, it has countdown. It says like the dates from the show, and then it has like today's date is the day you're seeing that show. And then, so I'm seeing it in Lincoln, Nebraska. So when they go to dial in, it goes on that board, it displays, goes out from Lincoln, Nebraska, zooms out, shows the globe, shows it like moving back, going back in time a little bit, and then zooming in on Doc Brown's house in there. And so that was really cool, just how they make it interactive and program for every production, every stop on the tour, just that extra level of stuff that they didn't need to do, but kind of takes it to a whole other level. I had heard the production design of this show was crazy impressive, and I was curious if they were going to match that and bring all of it on the national tour as well, because you are constantly breaking down, moving things from city to city, and they did such a good job. So like this team on this road team is fantastic. Like, tip my cap to them. It was one of the biggest, craziest sets that I've ever seen, and so shout out to them. And like I said, this movie, the music didn't connect with me as much as others. However, every song worked so well within the musical and what it is. So I think I would still recommend this movie and say it is this musical, and say that it's such a fun time at the theater. Like, there were so many laughs from the audience, cheering. It was one of the most interactive crowds that I've seen in a long time. And there was enough going on stage that it almost made me forget the child talking at full volume and kicking my seat behind me, whose dad was also answering in full volume. So I may just have run in the family. But I'd recommend you go see this national tour production. I think it goes into 2025. So I think they have at least a few months left. It started earlier this year. I'm not sure where else their stops are going. Highly recommend you check it out. Back to the Future musical, one of the most technologically impressive and modern looking musicals that I have ever seen. And it has a lot of other little fun notes, like on the nose, that I said too. So like, and Jennifer mentions her Uncle Huey is going to come see Marty play at the beginning. And obviously, Marty's song that he's playing is The Power of Love. If you've seen the movie. And The Power of Love is sung by Huey Lewis in the News. So nice little nod, wink at the audience there. That one I didn't mind. That one I thought was good. But Back to the Future musical, a lot of fun. Recommend you go see it if you have the opportunity to. Like, I can't even do justice to the production design and the staging of this. It's something you have to see for yourself, and it is so good. So I recommend you go do that. Maybe check out the soundtrack ahead of time. People have different feelings on that, even on the pod. Like, Rayleigh and I and Brad and I have different opinions. That I like to kind of know the music, at least have somewhat of an idea going into it, because I've been to enough shows where there's been either some technical audio issues, which is disappointing, and I don't know if that speaks more to my theater or what's going on there, which kind of sucks, but where certain performers' vocals will just get lost, and if you're not familiar with it, you're not knowing what they're saying, that can really take away from it. But I also respect Rayleigh and Brad, who are like, well, I like to more go into it and see it in the context and how it's intended to be heard and experienced, which I get, because there's albums that I've listened to that haven't jived with me, and just listening to the soundtrack, but then seeing it in its context and feeling and experiencing everything else that's going on, it does get that kind of reaction, that emotional feeling out of me that does something. So up to you whether you want to listen to it ahead of time. I'd recommend it. Like I said, it is fun. There's just nothing that really stands out in the music to me as like, these are going to be show-stopping numbers. These are going to be talked about with some of the greats of musical theater. None of that happened for me in this musical, but the production design, on the other hand, is the best that I have seen, and you have to go see it and experience it for yourself. So that's my recommendation. That's my review of Back to the Future, the musical. The national tour is going on now, and next week, we'll see what's happening on the pod. Those of you that listen, Rayleigh's in Florida. They've been hit with back-to-back hurricanes there. She's safe. Everything's okay. But just dealing with some stuff there has kind of threw things for a loop. So we will see. It'll be a surprise what's on next week's episode. So that's why you need to subscribe, follow, have notifications on so that you can see what's coming up and you don't miss an episode, because you never know what's coming at you. You know it's going to be a good time. You know it's going to be fun. There's a musical-heavy month. So we'll be mixing it up with some variety starting next month. So I hope you enjoyed. Thank you all. Like, comment, subscribe, follow, share. I want to hit 100 subscribers on YouTube by the end of the year. That's my goal. So I think it's attainable. I think we can do it. I have faith in you, you downers who listen regularly. Do it. Share. Tell your friends. Tell your family. All that fun stuff. So thank you all. Have a fantastic week. And don't forget to go down once more. Later.